Hi everybody! Today I'm taking you on a trip across the Chesapeake Bay to explore Blackwater National Wildlife Refuge, located in Dorchester County, Maryland. This wildlife refuge is of great ecological importance and is steeped in history. The Nanticoke and Choptank Indians called Blackwater home before Captain John Smith and European settlers drove them from it. Today, descendants of the Nanticoke and Choptank tribes have restored their home in Dorchester County and continue to honor their heritage as the Nassau-Wash tribe. Harriet Tubman was born around the Blackwater area, and it's believed that Blackwater could have been a hiding place for escaped slaves along the Underground Railroad. If you're interested in learning more about the civil history of Blackwater, I highly recommend visiting the Harriet Tubman Underground Railroad National Monument located right next to the refuge. On January 12, 1933, Blackwater was established as a National Wildlife Refuge as a sanctuary for migrating waterfowl along the Atlantic Flyway. Tens of thousands of various waterfowl species travel between Canada and Florida along the Atlantic Flyway, and Blackwater is an important feeding spot for these birds. Blackwater has been recognized by the Ramsar Convention as Wetland of International Importance, named a priority wetland in North American Waterfowl Management Plan, and designated as an internationally important bird area. It's sometimes called the Everglades of the North, and the Nature Conservancy labeled the refuge as a last great places. During the migration season, you can find up to 35,000 geese and 15,000 ducks resting and feeding within the refuge. The refuge is a biodiversity hotspot with over 250 bird species, 35 reptile and amphibian species, and a variety of mammals, invertebrate, and plant species as well. About 165 threatened and endangered plants and animals can be found within the refuge. You can also find 3 species that have been removed from the endangered species list: the peregrine falcon, Delmarva fox squirrel, and the bald eagle. In fact, Blackwater houses the largest natural population of Delmarva squirrels and the largest population of bald eagles on the East Coast, outside of Florida. On top of being a biodiversity hotspot, the Wildlife Refuge encompasses 4 major ecosystems within its boundaries. The Wildlife Refuge is over 32,000 acres, containing a variety of ecosystems: forests, containing a mix of evergreen, deciduous trees, and loblolly pine trees, croplands, freshwater wetlands, and of course, the tidal marsh. Blackwater contains a third of Maryland's tidal wetlands, providing storm protection to the coastline and a safe haven for the thousands of species that call Blackwater home. It's a bit unfortunate our class is taking place during the summer semester instead of spring, when we could have seen a waterfowl migration take place. But even during the summer, there's still plenty to do and see in the refuge. Visitors can explore Blackwater by either driving or biking on the Wildlife Road, hiking on one of their 4 trails, kayaking along the waterways, or just relaxing in their pollinator sanctuary. So let's see what species we can spot as we drive, hike, and kayak within Blackwater National Wildlife Refuge. Right away, I spotted a variety of dragonfly species, like this blue dasher and Needham schemer in both red and yellow coloration. Zipping throughout the refuge are red-winged blackbirds, tree swallows, and eastern kingbirds. Great egrets and great blue herons are also common throughout and can be seen fishing in the waters of the refuge. The refuge is well known for ospreys and bald eagles. Their nests dot the landscape and are a common sight to see flying within the refuge. You may even spot a bald eagle stealing a catch from a great blue heron who just dropped their fish seconds ago to chase off another would-be thief. Eastern painted turtles can be seen basking in the sun, while bullfrogs sing along the marsh's edge. And here comes a northern water snake looking to catch a meal. Looks like this bullfrog got lucky this time. On one of the stops along the wildlife drive, I spotted somebody's home, and it turned out to belong to a muskrat. Before the refuge was established, Blackwater was a fur farm, trapping muskrats for their fur. Hiking along the trails, I spotted a Delmarva fox squirrel. It's slightly bigger than your average gray squirrel. Also, I found along the trail a Fowler's toad, an orchard orb weaver with their meal, a red-spotted purple butterfly, an American goldfinch, a broadhead skink, and a few five-lined skinks popped up to say hi. Blackwater is a well-known birding spot, so it's no surprise that there are so many species to look out for, such as these double-crested cormorants, Forster's tern, and laughing gull, who kept me company while I collected my eDNA sample. Here is a turkey vulture flying overhead, and an eastern bluebird, a red-headed woodpecker, a house wren, a barn swallow, a cattle egret, a pair of mallard ducks flying by while I was kayaking, and a large shorebird species, most likely a willet based on the time of year. Blackwater National Wildlife Refuge is also where I decided to take my eDNA sample. The tidal marsh is fed by Blackwater River and Little Blackwater River. Both rivers run through three swamps, the Gum, Kentuck, and Money Stump. Blackwater also backs against Chesapeake Bay, so I'm curious to find out what types of fish inhabit this ecosystem. I took my water sample near the entrance of the refuge, where there were both humans and birds trying to catch a fish. A helpful local boy enthusiastically told me he's been catching blue crabs and fish all morning, so I knew I was in a good spot for my sampling. I collected my water sample from Blackwater and pushed it against the filter as instructed, but my filter clogged pretty quickly. I probably got less than 30 mils through before the filter clogged. I attribute it to the fact that Blackwater is a tidal marsh with brackish water and there's probably a good amount of debris within my sample. I'm just hoping that it doesn't affect my results very much. After adding in the preservatives and capping off my sample, it's ready to be sent off to the lab to be analyzed, and I'm hoping to get something interesting. Unfortunately, the mail lost my first sample, but Jonah DNA was nice enough to send me a kit to redo my test, but I most likely wouldn't get those results in time for this video. So in order to help me hypothesize on what types of fish will be in my eDNA results, I talked to some local fishermen to get insights into the varieties of fish that are found in this area. After talking to the fishermen and doing some research on the fish in Blackwater, I came up with a list of fish species I would expect to see in my eDNA, which are the channel catfish, Ictularis punctatus, white perch, Morone americana, rockfish, also known as striped bass, Morone saxatilis, mummy chug, Fundulus heteroclictus, and Chief's head minnow, Cyprinodon variegatus. These are native species that can be found within the tidal and non-tidal waters in Maryland. I was even able to spot a school of mummy chug and Chief's head minnow swimming in the low waters of the tidal marsh. I also expect my results to contain 3 invasive fish species: the common carp, Sarprinus carpeo, the blue catfish, Ictularis percactus, and of course, the northern snakehead, Shana argus. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, along with other organizations, work within the refuge to manage non-native species. One such example is the invasive nutria, a rodent species from South America introduced into Blackwater by the fur farm industry that once stood where the refuge is now. Nutria love to eat, and they tear up the roots of the marsh plants as they pick out, leaving little food for the native muskrat and causing the marshland to wash away. Speaking of non-natives, I did spot some non-native species while I was touring the refuge, like these mating Japanese beetles on this native rose mallow, and this European honeybee on this native Virginia spiderwort. And here is a hairy vetch, a field garlic, a white mulberry, and this sika deer hiding in the marsh grass, an admittedly beautiful Asian elk deer species. The refuge advocates for the use of native plants to help native species thrive. At the entrance to the refuge, you can find a pollinator sanctuary and a native plant garden at their visitor center to attract native pollinators. With these pollinator sanctuaries, I found an assortment of plants and insects, like this monarch butterfly. And here, a large milkweed bug on a butterfly milkweed, a brown-belted bumblebee on a coneflower, and an orange sulfur butterfly on a coneflower. This winterberry with a lostoglossom bee species. And here is a beautiful black swallow-tailed butterfly. Blackwater National Wildlife Refuge hosts a wide variety of species and ecosystems. I can see why it's labeled as a wetland of ecological importance. I truly enjoyed my visit to the refuge, and I hope you did as well. If you wish to learn more about Blackwater National Wildlife Refuge and their conservation efforts to preserve this ecosystem, you can check out the refuge online on the U.S. Fish and Wildlife website or at friendsofblackwater.org, a nonprofit citizen support group for Blackwater. Thank you for joining me on this adventure, and thanks for watching.